Hello to all my ghouls, gays, and theys. My name is EJ Marino, and we have a new review. I'm going to be jumping into Season 4, Episode 3 of Dragula, Weird Wild West. We are only a few episodes into this new season of Dragula, and I'm going to say this might be one of my favorites. I don't know, there's just a lot going for it. The monsters are so top tier this season. There's really fun challenges. I really like the judging. The Boulets, I think, are some of the best judges out of all of these reality competition shows. I'm not usually a big fan of judging, but here I really understand it. I think the Boulets are having a really good time with their monsters, trying to bring them out, trying to have a fun, entertaining show, but also like evolve these monsters, make them a bit stronger, make them a bit more fulfilling, and I think that is great. I love that they have that moment where they just talk to them before bringing in the guest judges, before bringing in the monsters. They say, hey, this is our show, let's figure this out. And I think that's so genius. I think this episode was structured well. I didn't have to deal with the messy Nosferatu dance party stuff that we did where all of them were on the stage at one time. No. This was a bit of a normal, structured episode. It was an entertaining episode. As much as it pained me who went home, I kind of agree with it. So there's a lot here that I'm like, this is a season that I'm enjoying. I think these monsters are cool. I think the Boulets are trying to push some. There's a couple they called out, like people like Mary and Jade, that they're like, we like you, I like you, but we need you to go above and beyond. And I like that. This is just a season where I'm like, every episode I keep going, all right, this is where I'm going to go, oh, the judging, oh, this. I mean, we're seeing it with, I saw the fan reaction to UK season 3 or whatever we're on, where people were upset with someone who just recently went home. I haven't really seen that much here yet, and I am enjoying that. I think the season is well structured. I think it's having a fun time. So enough of this little review section. Let's get into the recap where I talk about the episode, and then we get into that very fun floor show. Our monsters are coming in after last week's episode. Astrid has went home and they're waiting to figure out who is coming back. We know that Astrid is, but they don't know, and they start talking, not just about Astrid and Betty, which we get into in a second, but we see them kind of calling out Cherry for talking too much. We see people like Coco and Sigourney have an issue with it, and then you have people like Dolly who are there like, well, maybe you are all like aren't talking enough. I think that's a very interesting dynamic. Like, Cherry is making a point. I think she says it later on in the episode where he's just like, look, none of y'all are talking. There is cameras on us. We should be performing, at least giving them something to put into the edit bay. Because for real, if they weren't really like talking in the segment with Mary, what would y'all have been putting in this? More specifically, that one makeup section later. I know they're trying to get focused, get into these very elaborate costumes, but Mary's like, y'all need to offer something a little bit more. And Zavaletta's calling Mary out. Zavaletta was a bit feisty this episode. Zavaletta kept saying things that I'm like, I like you, but shut up. You're gonna get people into some shit. It's one of those characters on a show where I'm like, I like you. I want everyone else to like you, and I don't think you're making it very easy. Then the conversation turns to who should stay. We have Hoso, who is a bit on Team Astrid, and it's pretty obvious because they've been flirting the whole season. And yeah, Hoso's just like, I kind of want Betty to go. I didn't see the fire. Betty walks in like, oh, you want to see fire? Here's leech marks. Let me explain the challenge. And I'm like, yeah, Betty should have stayed, to be honest. Astrid's meltdown was a bit of a meltdown, and I don't know if they full-on saw all of that. But also, in the extermination, I don't think Astrid performed as well, and I thought that outfit was pretty weak. Astrid is someone who definitely can come back in another season, or if they ever do an all-monster season for Dragula, that would be really cool. Just think in this competition, there are strong, tough people here, and you got to get through them, especially with a challenge like this Wild Weird West challenge. I thought this was a fun thing. It's a bit of a cowboy western vibe, but also a bit of a sci-fi edge, so they have to mix this together. Before we get onto the floor show, we do have a bit of a moment where Zavaletta is letting loose and really explaining their side to a lot of stuff, and I think that is so interesting and so good. What I liked is I just complained about Zavaletta being a bit mouthy and being saying like, okay, I want everyone to like you, and then moments like this. I love that these monsters are three-dimensional television characters. So many times in other shows, and I'm not just talking about Drag Race, but so many times in reality shows you have the villain, the sassy person, the weird person, this. Not in Dragula. Everyone is everything. There's a bit of a weird person here, there's a bit of a sassy person in you, there's a bit of a mildly crazy person in you, there's a bit of a sad, quiet person. Everyone fills these roles, and I think that's very interesting. I think that really plays into why each one of these monsters speak to me. Even if I don't particularly love Jade's style, even if sometimes Hoso's looks are a bit okay, or if I'm like, what, Mary, what are you doing here? I think they're all worthy of being here, and they're all interesting because the show allows me to feel that way. I just kind of had to like harp on the actual good editing here and the actual good storytelling because I like these monsters. I like this Zavaleta scene. I like where they cut to Mary kind of talking about a story and they give her those dissolves that I'm like, oh, in reality show, you don't want those like dissolved transitions. That means you're talking too long. And yeah, it's a really interesting breakdown. So I did want to highlight that I actually do like the structure of the show. I do like what they're having to offer. I hope you guys are as well. I hope you are noticing the difference between this and a lot of other reality shows where I feel like we're getting more from the monsters. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I want to know your feelings down below. Now let's get into this wild, weird floor show. Now the floor show is here, and before we get into all of that, we meet our judges, who is Orville, Peck, and Trixie Mattel. Trixie, world famous drag queen, country music inspired. I have your Funko up there. I'm a Trixie fan. I actually think like Trixie worked well on the show. Some of those puns were a bit annoying, but who I thought did really well was Orville with his little notebook and everything, really offering up good takes, good things to say. I thought these were good judges. Now the floor show. We have this, like I said, Wild West mixed with sci-fi inspired, and we have Betty come out to a okay look. I was inspired by the Betty look because I got it. I was just like, it's Dolly, it's understandable, I see it, but I agreed with Trixie where Trixie was just like, hey, up it, do something a bit more. Speaking of doing more, Coco comes out in a pig-inspired Lady Gaga swine. I'm on like the barbecue out on the prairie. I thought this look was okay. I thought the makeup was a bit shoddy. There's something a bit Halloween time and not Dragula level with the makeup. I was expecting a bit more. I think Coco is a solid performer, and I really like Coco. This just wasn't my favorite look. We also had Zavaleta come out in this, I thought a little bit of Land Insider, but I love the gender-bending aspects to this, like, kind of, Old West, like, Mexicano kind of vibe. I thought he was this guy was so presented. I understood this character. It was a bit femme, but it was a bit masculine. I loved this Old West character. I thought it was so detailed. Speaking of an Old West character, we also had Dolly, who was great. Like, Dolly's look was so punk, so Alien versus Predator. They really upped it this week. I do think the makeup kind of reminded me of a bit of last week's makeup, so I do hope to see a bit of a change there. I can see the similar style of wanting to paint like that. I would like to see a different paint next week, but that's only a small thing. Speaking of different paints, J. Jolie tried something different this week, a bit more aggressive, a bit upped, but not on the level. The Boulets do say, hey, I need you to be a bit better because, yeah, I see you. Well, I've seen Jade online. I know Jade can do some good horror-inspired looks. This was a good alien-ish look. I just expected a bit more. Someone also I expected more from, not saying this was a bad look, but Sigourney. I liked Sigourney Beaver's look, but I was just like, oh, okay, I was expecting more from the actual paint. She looked good. I mean, the makeup, the hair, the outfits, these are all top-tier drag, but I needed it at an 11. Paint for the back row, paint for the graveyard behind the Boulet's house. Like, that's where you need to go for, and that's what I'm wanting to see. I'm like, I need this energy. I want you to do better because I know you can stay. I also think Saint can stay. If Saint did not do this really, really mediocre cow look, I was just like, okay, bitch, I'm a cow, bitch, I'm a cow, I get it. But Saint, this was not my favorite, and Mary did whatever the hell she did, a bit of saloon woman, a bit of alien. I kind of also read cactus, but Hoso was the cactus. I was just like, Oh my goodness, what is this look? What are we trying to do, Mary? It wasn't my favorite. I do think her stage performance, which the Boulets were looking at very heavily here, was a bit upped, so I was happy to see that. Hoso, I thought was fine. I liked Hoso's look. I just wasn't gagged by it. I don't know why Hoso is not shocking me as much as they did that first episode where I was just like, you are a front runner. Now I'm just seeing them slip down a little bit. It's a bit conflicting for me. There was a lot of them here, but I got through all of them and I'm just like, wow, the highs were highs and some of the lows, like Saint, like Coco, were a bit low for me, and that's why they end up in the bottom, and it's sad. So basically, much of what I said was kind of what the judges felt. They were like, hey, I want a little bit more from Saint, but hey, Mary, Jade, like Hoso, you guys are safe, but again, like most shows, safe's not a good word. Yeah, the bottoms are Saint and Coco, and I'm a bit torn because I like them both. I love Saint. I was rooting for Saint to stay, obviously. I think he's fine as hell. But yeah, and this is fun, and they get into some, like, kind of tension back there, and, like, it's not, again, Saint or Coco, the two bottom people, it's Zavaleta and Mary getting into it. Jade is in the middle, and I'm just like, what is this drama? Where is this coming from? What is happening? I just want to get to the extermination, which was bull riding. All of them have to ride the bull. I wasn't in love with this extermination. I thought it was fairly weak. I was expecting more gags and shock from it. I don't know if I was the only one who was just like, that's it? Like, okay, yeah, like, I was more interested in the fight with Zava and, like, Mary before I was into some of this actual extermination. That's never happened. I'm usually a fan of the crazy show stuff, not the crazy drama stuff. Yeah, and as I kind of hinted at, Coco goes home. I was really rooting for Saint, so I'm happy Saint went. I'm upset to see Coco go. I thought Coco really offered an alternative, like, style. I thought she was gorgeous and weird and slutty and sexual, but badass and creepy and kooky, but it just wasn't on the same level as everyone else. You can kind of see that some other people need to get stepped up, or they could end up as Coco is. I don't hate to say it, but some of y'all need to go because these tops, people like Dolly and Sigourney and Zavaleta, these are tough people to beat. I need y'all to do better because it's going to be hard to beat those. Alright everyone, that is it for my review of Dragula episode 3. I had a good time with this Wild West Bang Bang style episode. I wanted exactly what I got. I got fun Western inspired stuff, but I wanted some of these bottom people to do better. I love you, Saint. I love you, Jade. I like you, Mary. Mary, you're growing on me, but do better. Be better because you guys are such strong competitors, but this is a tough season. Like I said, season 4 of Dragula is starting to get really hot, really badass. I hope you guys are enjoying as much as I did. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel because I make videos like this every single week, and give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Alright everyone, let's talk about Dragula down below.